Hi, my name's Phil and I work for Crick Software, the makers of Clicker. Clicker is a literacy support tool. It supports reading, writing, speaking and listening for primary pupils. So we've been working with the South Australian Department for Education with the objective of providing Clicker to help improve reading across South Australia and also help achieve the 2021 action plan. In particular, the areas on inclusive education and digital capability, although Clicker would feed into other aspects of the plan as well. So what I'm going to do is have a quick look at some information on our website about Clicker, and then we're going to give you a very short overview demonstration. So first of all, if we go to the Clicker page here, there's lots of information on Clicker on this page, and that's split into Clicker 8, which works on Windows and Mac computers, and Clicker Writer, which is the first of a number of Clicker apps that works on iPads and Chromebooks. We have more apps on their way. We've got Clicker Books coming out fairly soon, and under the agreement with the Department for Education, you would be getting a site license for Clicker 8 and Clicker Writer, so you can use it on all devices in school and also devices for pupils and teachers at home as well, and you would also get all the new apps as they become available. Clicker, as I said, is great for inclusive education. You can use it for gifted and talented students, but you can also use it for those who need some additional support. And if we pop down to the bottom of the Clicker 8 page there's some information on providing access for all. So if you're using it with children with dyslexia or autism or low vision or learning difficulties, etc., there's lots of information there for you. If you want to know a bit more about the impact of using Clicker, if you head to the About Clicker tab and you look at the Be Inspired section here, there are success stories where we've got lots of schools telling us about how they've used Clicker, but there's also the evidence section there where we've done some, or people have done some research studies and we've reported on them, and there's some really striking results about the improvements made when you use Clicker. Now I'm going to crack on and give you a short demonstration, but if you'd like a more thorough overview of Clicker, if you go to our training section on our website, so www.cricksoft.com, head over to the training section, head into Clicker, and then there are some on-demand webinars there, and that will give you a much more detailed overview. But hopefully you'll get a flavour of it from what I'm about to show you today. Okay. So what I'm going to be demonstrating is Clicker 8 on a computer. So Clicker 8 is the fully featured program, reading, writing, speaking and listening, but many of the writing facilities I'm showing you at the moment are also available on the iPad in Clicker Writer, and some of the other things I'm going to be showing you will be coming to the iPad in future under the umbrella of Clicker apps. So the first part of Clicker, this is a word processor, but it's a primary focused word processor with lots of support. So I'm going to start off by typing a sentence. My name is Lisa. I'm going to put the full stop in. Clicker will do a few things.
My name is Lisa.
So hopefully you noticed it sorted out my capital M and my capital L. I didn't put those in. Now that's something that you might want switched on for some children, not others. So if you've got individuals that don't need that switched on, you can go to options, and it's actually in the spell check options you can take off the automatic capitalization. Hopefully you also noticed it read back to us in an Australian sounding accent. There are a number of different speech engines you can use, male and female, and as well as the speech support, which really helps children to check that what they've typed in is what they thought they typed in, we've also got the highlighting of the text, so visual reinforcement of that speech support. That really helps children, maybe if their first language is not English, it helps them link the words they're hearing in the mind to the words they're seeing on the page, which is a really important step to becoming confident in learning English. And also if they make a mistake in their writing, if they're watching it as it reads back, it's much easier to spot the error. So maybe I'm dyslexic and I find writing really hard. So the first thing is I've got to the end of my sentence and Clicker has not read back to me. And it's not read back to me because I've not put the full stop in. So the first thing that Clicker does is remind students they should be punctuating their work because they're expecting the speech feedback. When they do put the full stop in, they're checking their work because they can hear their mistake.
I find reading really hard.
So I can hear that I've written writing rather than writing. To correct that error, if I was working with an older pupil, I might direct them to right-click and get a list of words. If I'm working with younger pupils, and particularly if we're doing some group writing on an interactive whiteboard or a touchscreen TV, I'll click the ABC button and you get that lovely child-friendly floating spell checker, which is particularly good with younger children that might not have the best mouse control. They've got large target areas to hit the words. But we do hit another problem, and that is if we didn't know how to spell writing in the first place, we might not be sure which of these are correct. So what we can do with Clicker is we can right-click on them.
Sitting, hitting, writing,
That's what I want. So a right-click listen,
writing.
and then I can left-click with confidence and select the correct word. Now, something that we've also got built into this word processor is something called a voice note facility, and that can be used by both teachers and students. So from a teacher's perspective, if you've got a student that is forever forgetting what it is they're supposed to be doing and maybe going off task, what you can do is record a voice note with some instructions. Okay, Lisa, I want you to do some writing all about yourself. Tell me about your favourite things. Now, if you've got a student that needs lots of direction, you could put several of these in a row with distinct instructions in, like first put your name, then put the date, then put the title, or whatever the format is. And then when the student is working in class, maybe they don't need to call on the teaching assistant or the teacher all the time to grab their attention for help because they can just listen back to those voice notes. It's also been really powerful in recent times when some students have had to work from home. We've had lots of customers using voice notes as a really effective way for teachers to communicate the task, instructions and objectives to students working off-site. Students can also use that facility, particularly good for children who've got poor working memory, who might be full of some very good ideas to put in their writing, but when they're concentrating so much on the actual writing, some of those ideas might slip away. So what we can do is capture them first in the voice recorder, so we're doing some oral rehearsal prior to writing. Okay, I like playing with my brother, I keep rabbits, and I quite like baking. And you see that goes in as a different coloured note, so it's easy for students to understand or distinguish between the different notes. Okay, to listen to them back, I click on them. Okay, I like playing with my brother, I keep rabbits, and I quite like baking. Okay, so I'm just going to type that out now. Let's listen to that back.
I like cooking my family and my pets.
Oh dear. Okay, so that sounds a bit like I'm trying to cook my family, and of course because I've got that speech support I'm able to recognize that. So what I'm going to do is go back and put a comma in and we'll listen to the difference.
I like cooking my family and my pets.
So you can hear that Clicker does respond to punctuation. Let's give you another example.
Amazing. Amazing.
Okay. We've got some further options with the voice as well, so if it was speaking too quickly for a particular individual, we can use that slider to slow it down. For a student that needs lots of support, we might have it spoken after each word, or for a child that was visually impaired, we might even have it speaking after each letter. So then when they press I or L, which are quite close to each other on a typical keyboard, but look fairly similar on screen if you're visually impaired, they'll be able to clearly hear the difference between those letters. Okay, so lots of customization available. The next bit of support we're going to look at is the prediction tool. Again, that's up in our support section on the ribbon here, and this is a customizable predictor that can help me with spelling. It can help me if I'm not sure what word might be coming next, even help me with grammar. So let's type something tricky like my favorite, but as I start typing F, it thinks, you know what, favorite might follow the word my, so it automatically offers it. I can listen to be sure.
Favorite.
Okay, my favourite sport is cycling, which sounds a bit like it starts S-I-K-L, and whilst it doesn't, Clicker can still find that word for me because it'll do phonetic prediction as well.
Cycling. My favorite sport is cycling.
It then gives me a word that I might use to start the next sentence, but if I start typing and I was going to write we was going swimming, you can see it offers me were but not was, whereas if I type in I, then it gives me was. So whilst Clicker won't stop me typing something that's not grammatically correct, it helps guide me to better choices of words. And just like other aspects of Clicker, you can go to the options and adjust the vocabulary bank from 200 to about 60,000 words, depending on the abilities of the students you're working with. Okay. One other thing that I'm not going to demonstrate but just mention is that if you've got children that struggle with black text on white background, sometimes that can, visual disturbances can be associated with dyslexia. Well, you can change the colours, and you can also change to a dyslexia-friendly font that comes with Clicker 8. Okay, but what I want to look at now are clicker sets. So one of the things that sets Clicker apart are the ability to run different activities within Clicker. And to give you a quick overview, we're going to look at this new clicker set dialog. So we can make these sets. So there's sentence building activities, scaffolded writing activities where we're giving the child words and phrases to select, and then word banks where the child's doing most of the typing themselves, but maybe they're writing about science and they can't spell photosynthesis, so we have that and some other sciencey words in a word bank at the bottom of the screen. Okay. Other sorts of activities, we've got planning boards, which is a really effective way to work with a class or work with an individual, help them to lay out their thoughts, and then at a click of a button you can take all the words typed into a clicker board and pop them straight away into a word bank to help them with their writing. And they could be doing that, as I said before, on a computer, or they could be doing it on an iPad or a Chromebook using Clicker Writer. We have talking books, and we'll look at some of those in a moment, but talking books can help you share stories with children. You can make them up yourselves, but Clicker comes with a wealth of clicker sets, and there are many, many talking books pre-prepared. And children can create their own books as well, either based on a template, or they can just create their own blank book from scratch. In addition, there are other sorts of activities like the talk sets, which is great for speaking and listening. There are the matching sets, which often used at the start of a lesson to introduce some new vocabulary or concepts, and then custom sets, which covers a whole wealth of other sorts of activities like labelling and sorting activities. But what we're going to do is we're going to open one of the existing clicker sets. So when you get Clicker, you get access to something called learning grids. And if we look at the ANZ learning grids, you'll see there's 2,283 resources at the moment, and that figure's rising all the time. And you can find those resources via keywords or by browsing the different subject areas with topics and subtopics beneath those areas. Okay, but this is one that I happen to have saved on my computer, so I'm going to open this, and this is my favorite things Connect set. So here I'm going to tell you about my favourite foods. Oh, I meant to write foods. Let's just change that to an S. Foods are, and they are strawberries and chocolate, okay?
My favorite foods are strawberries and chocolate.
Okay, and then we'd go on to tell you about our favourite, my favourite animals, etc. I'd use the different tabs to write a full paragraph of text. Now, one of the things that's really interesting about Clicker is you've got some writing there, and with most word processors you could see the outcome, but you've got no idea how the student managed to achieve that piece of work. But with Clicker, whether they've done the writing on Clicker Writer or they've done it on Clicker 8, we can head over to Analytics here, and we've got a full breakdown of their performance. We can see all the words, all their successes there. Those are all the words they typed in without help. We've got the words they use the spell checker for, and they're highlighted in red on the diagram, well, on the overview on the left. You can tell whether they use speech or not and what the original spelling was. You can see where the predictor was used, and you can see where the clicker set was used, in this case a connect set. You can see all the words that were typed in except for that S in black, because if you remember, I typed in the S to make foods. I typed that in manually, but everything else came in from the connect set. You can print those off, and what lots of teachers are doing are keeping a number of these across the course of, say, a year with a student, and using them for an assessment purpose so that you can see how the child is progressing, and also it can be used to inform the support you're giving in Clicker and whether you want to increase that support or whether you're ready to roll back some of that support. Okay, so that was an example of one way of assessing information in Clicker. Another way that I'm going to show you to assess very, very quickly is if I just open a piece of text. So I've got some text knocking around here on the Egyptians. You can also create a very quick testing activity by pasting text. So I've just copied some text on the Egyptians. I'm going to create a new closed document. I'm going to paste that in, and if I just do what we call a quick remove, then that will automatically create me a close activity there, and that can be done on the computer, or you could print that out and run that on and run that as a paper-based activity if you prefer, but it's a really quick and easy way to make a close activity. And if you want to be more precise and go through and pick your own words, you can do. You don't have to do an automated remove. Okay, let's look now at some of the other sorts of activities that we've got in Clicker. So I just did a search on learning grids, and I went to the story corner and I picked out King Midas and the Golden Touch. So I've just loaded up some activities to show you how we might approach that topic using Clicker. So first of all, we've got a full screen talking book, King Midas and the Golden Touch, and as the teacher I might use that to introduce the story to the class. Okay. Now, if there's a child that was struggling to read that independently, because after we've introduced it as a class we might then get the children to read it themselves, some children can have the whole thing read back to them by just clicking the speak text button, or if they're stuck on a specific word, they can improve their reading fluency by reading what they can read and then
kindness,
and then click on any words they get stuck on. That can improve their reading fluency. For those that need a lot more support, we might use the Read It Yourself version, which is a simplified version of the book, which just outlines the story with one sentence per page of the book. Then, maybe taking a talk for writing approach, we might then get children to talk us through the story, and here we can click on a section of the story and we can get a child to come up and explain what's happening in that frame of the story. And then once they've recorded their voices, all the class have recorded their voices into the story, you can play that back and listen to the whole story. We then might do some writing, and here is a very simple activity where we've just got one sentence per page, and I can see the sentence by clicking on that little I button there, but I'm not allowed to use the grid while the sentence is visible. If I wanted to make it easier, because that was too difficult, then we can put it in what we call guided order and make it view and copy. So that sentence is visible all the time, and now I can't click on the grey icons, so the grey cells. I have to click on King Midas first and then loved, and it kind of walks me through. Okay. For those a bit more confident, then we give them a connect set, so now they're piecing together the story by picking and choosing sentence chunks. And then for the most confident writers, we'd give them either a simplified word bank or a very detailed A to Z word bank. And we can even have, here we've got like an on-screen worksheet, so each of the tabs holds a different question, and then we've got the words there to help us answer that question. Okay. Finally, I'm going to go to this one. So this then is King Midas and the Golden Touch by Phil, and the child could go through, they they can add the pictures there. So we've got a bank of pictures to choose from. So we select the picture, and then we would go in and do the writing in there, and we've got a word bank to help us with the writing, and that's split into characters, places, nouns, verbs and adjectives. Okay, finally, I'm just going to mention, let's just pop back to the writing. So finally I'm going to mention a persuasion frame, which is one of the many frames that's suitable perhaps for more confident writers to develop their writing skills in different genres. So here we've got I think, I would argue, my point of view is to support my point of view. Then we've got general words, we've got linked words and phrases here. And if the teacher wanted to, they can just edit that last one with a few topic words that are topic specific to the particular bit of persuasion that you're doing. Alternatively, if you want to just create a vocab bank quickly, you literally can jump into something like a web page like Wikipedia or whatever, and then just paste that into Clicker, and it will automatically filter that into an A to Z word bank for you. So in addition to the sort of 2,300 resources online, you can make your own very easily. In the time that I've had, I certainly haven't gone through everything that Clicker can do. As I said, we've got the on-demand webinars in our training section, which will give you a more comprehensive overview. Or if you want to browse some of the sort of highlights of Clicker, you can go to the Clicker 8 tab here, and it will talk you through the main aspects of Clicker. Okay, hope that was useful. Any questions, please refer back to the Department of Education. They can get back in touch with me if they've got if you want any specific questions answered.